have to do is ask my father, who literally was shot in the Orangeburg Massacre, right? Who helped found SNCC, who marched with Marion Barry and Stokely Carmichael and Martin Luther King, and the list goes on and on and on. And he will tell you today that he feels like this country's at 1954. And so if you want to talk about somebody...
But that doesn't mean it is. Well, you said he feels that way. That's ridiculous. Boy, he's really, I mean, it's a good strategy. Like, while the Democrats are getting all this bad publicity, just shut up. He doesn't usually do something that smart.
It's like that scene.
Remember when Bill Maher called out those overly woke MSNBC hosts? Well, now it's CNN's Bakari Sellers feeling the heat. He tried to take on Ben Shapiro live on Maher's show, and it did not go well. Sellers, who often leans heavily on race in his debates, quickly realized his usual approach wasn't landing. The moment turned tense fast, and it became clear. Some arguments just don't hold up when they're challenged head-on.
The Ben Shapiros of the world, these people who don't necessarily have the intellect to have honest discussions, but but yet they're able to become millionaires because they're actually just circulating and promulgating this.
Things didn't go as planned for Bakari Sellers. Ben Shapiro, known for his sharp logic, wasn't letting anything slide, and watching him break down Sellers' points was uncomfortable, but hard to look away from. I shared the first clip to set the scene. Sellers often mocks Shapiro's intelligence, acting like he's not worth taking seriously. That's bold, considering Shapiro built a media empire by winning tough debates, but Sellers stuck with his usual smug tone.
Many confounds when it comes to these particular issues, and unless you remove the statistical confounds, you end up with trying to blame vague, shadowy figures like implicit bias, which are innately, insanely difficult, if not impossible, to measure.
I don't know what he did.
When the two finally faced off on Bill Maher's stage, the tension was obvious. Shapiro stayed calm, but the moment Sellers dropped one of his usual talking points, Shapiro shut it down instantly, and the room shifted. Audience clearly wasn't buying what Sellers was selling. He looked unprepared, outmatched, and it showed. Then came the silence, that awkward pause where everyone wondered, did that just happen? It did. Sellers' entire approach unraveled on live TV. No edits, no safety net, just a clear moment where it became obvious who came ready and who showed up for the spotlight. And this wasn't just a bad debate. It was a reality check.
All you have to do is ask my father, who literally was shot in the Orangeburg Massacre, right? Who helped found SNCC, who marched with Marion Barry and Stokely Carmichael and Martin Luther King, and the list goes on and on and on. And he will tell you today that he feels like this country's at 1954. And so if you want to talk about somebody...
But that doesn't mean it is. Well, you said he feels that way. That's ridiculous. It is. Come on.
This shows exactly what's wrong with CNN's approach. Shapiro wasn't speaking in code or using complex language. He was making clear, reasonable points. He simply said the conversation about race is more complicated than most people admit. And the moment he suggested grounding it in facts, Sellers and others acted like he crossed a line. It's as if asking for clarity is offensive. Suddenly, everything becomes systemic or biased, but no one brings real proof. It starts to feel like we're chasing ghosts. Let's be real. Wanting structure in a conversation isn't a bad thing. Yet, when someone like Shapiro tries to bring order to the discussion, he's painted as out of touch, even though he's the one actually digging into the complexity. Are we really going to keep pretending something is true just because it feels true? At some point, feelings need to meet facts, or we'll just keep going in circles.
The ridiculous notion is for either one of you all to have the audacity to believe that you understand what the experience is to be.
I have to object to that.
But you just said
I cannot talk about it because I am not part of a group. I am a sentient human being. You're right. There's two ways you cannot understand something. One is to be too far from it. We're too far from it. We can't see like you can. One is to be too close to something. And then sometimes you can't see it accurately either.
Even after losing the debate, Sellers kept jabbing at Shapiro, like someone losing a chess match and pretending they won. That's when Bill Maher stepped in. He wasn't there to coddle anyone. He was there to keep it real. Shapiro made a simple point. Instead of emotional claims, let's talk about the real roots of racism, the laws, people, and history behind it. Just because something feels true doesn't make it true. Then Sellers brought up his father saying today feels like the 1960s. But feelings don't rewrite history. Maher didn't sugarcoat it. He said flat out, I'm feeling like it's 1965, showing how off that comparison really was.
I'm not too close to something, I am that.
I know.
So, but what
Which
I
is
what I'm-
definitionally too close.
what I am saying though is for you to discount my father's experience and say
I'm not discounting it.
and to say it was silly.
I'm not.
No, he was shot.
No,
Were
shit.
you shot?
No, but he's still alive. Like he's
Okay.
right here. Like
Right, but the idea that if I were to say to you, as a Jew, that the experience of Jews in the United States today is worse than the experience of Jews in Europe in 1939, I would not be stating accurately.
Correct.
It's not true.
That's
and it's
right.
also not true to say that the experience of black people in America in 2024 is worse on a general level than the experience of black men in 1954 in Alabama. That's just crazy.
But I mean,
Was I surprised when Maher called it out? Not really. He's been challenging extreme leftist ideas for years, but the moment still hit hard because it exposed a growing mindset. Feelings first, facts second. More and more, we hear that whatever someone feels about themselves must be accepted as truth. No questions asked. Then people are shocked when others stop taking them seriously. We've reached a point where even basic facts are up for debate. If a black man says he feels like a white woman, we're told to treat it as reality. And if you question it, you're labeled ignorant or hateful. It's no longer about facts, logic, or science. It's about pushing a narrative, even if it has no real foundation. And if you challenge it, you're shut down, judged, or canceled. The rest of us are just sitting here wondering, what happened to common sense? Since when did asking honest questions become risky?
He's really, I mean, it's a good strategy. Like, while the Democrats are getting all this bad publicity, just shut up. He doesn't usually do something that smart.
It's like that scene.
It feels like we're living in a world where truth only matters if it fits a certain agenda. Take the idea that you can't talk about racism unless you've personally lived it. By that logic, you couldn't speak about poverty unless you've been homeless, or discuss crime unless you've been a victim. That's not progress. That's just another form of censorship. Strong emotions don't equal truth. Everyone has biases, no matter what side they're on. That's why honest, open dialogue is so important. It's the only way to get closer to real understanding. But people like Bakari Sellers, Joy Reid, and Sunny Hostin don't seem interested in that. Their message thrives on division, anger, and victimhood. It's not about bringing people together. It's about keeping control. Because let's be real, if racism weren't painted as a constant, all-consuming crisis, what would they even talk about? This isn't about solving problems, it's about holding on to power. And real progress ges lost in the noise.
What about the conversations you and I have had, Whoopi, so many times about the co-opting of the word woke, and the fact that the right somehow has made it a dirty word. To be woke is a word that came out of the African American community, and it was about being acknowledging social justice inequities, acknowledging people suffering. It is not a bad thing to care about other people, to care about the sufferings of others, and to act upon it. And so it angers me when people are like, this woke stuff has got to go. That's telling me that you don't care about my lived experience. You don't care about the oppression of the LGBTQ community. You don't care about the oppression of the disabled. You don't care about the oppression of immigrants. You don't care about your fellow neighbor. And that is ungodly. That is not.
This is what happens when self-important voices who dodge real debate are put in the same room as people. Like Ben Shapiro or Bill Maher, the whole performance starts to fall apart. Suddenly, all that confidence turns into awkward silences and shaky responses. Just look at Bakari Sellers. When your entire argument is built on emotion rather than facts, even basic questions can cause it to collapse. Let's take a moment to remember what racism really looked like in the 1960s. It wasn't just attitudes, it was the law.